Hello and welcome to Sunday. It's Christmas Eve, and I think it's time. At the start of this year, I had a resolution where I wanted to promise myself that I would write an album review of whatever album came to mind every 2 weeks. And I held that pretty good. The only time that I really faltered was last month and a little bit of October when I was out of town for work. But during that time, I kind of made up for it in the past couple of weeks. Maybe not so much up to par to my standards, but I got every review out that I wanted to get out. And I'm super happy with that. So much, in fact, that I have done that. I've kept up with every review, and I think I did a good job with that. I'm not so sure if I'll be doing this as much as I did this year in the new year. I definitely want to keep writing, maybe not as often as every 2 weeks, but as soon as something's done, next day I can throw it out. Something like that. Maybe not like every other Monday, because it's a lot, and sometimes it comes easy, sometimes it's a bit difficult, and in this case, it was a little bit of both. I've used this to talk about a lot of music that I've enjoyed over the past who knows how long of my life. Anything ranging from stuff I heard literally the week or day of, with such examples being, I believe, this album. No, it's this one. This album right here, which would be Good Kid 3, their most recent EP. I believe I talked about that pretty much as soon as it came out. Or it can be as old as, a Fall Out Boy album that came out 15 years ago. Something like that. But today, we're going to talk about an album that came out 3 years ago. And that would be DROELOE's A Matter of Perspective. DROELOE's Matter of Perspective is probably the longest album I will take on, because it's 29, technically 31 songs. It is a anthology collection, meaning it's a bunch of the band's works over the past 3 years, over the course of 3 years, from 2017 to 2020, and this album came out 3 years ago. So let's talk about this anthology collection. This is going to be a very long video, but I think it's going to be worth it, at least to me. DROELOE's Matter of Perspective came out on, here's my review right here, on November 13th, 2020. DROELOE released an EP titled The Moment in Time, and that came out on August 22nd, 2017. Most recently, DROELOE released a record. Well, let's talk about the band, right? So DROELOE is an electronic music duo formed with Vincent Rugiers, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, and Hein Hammers. It started off as a collaborative effort between a graphic designer and a music producer sometime in 2015-2016 era. They've worked together for 5 years, and unfortunately in 2020 they split due to creative differences, all amicable. They were just on different paths of life, and as a result, they started pursuing things in their own directions. So, let's talk briefly, well, not briefly, let's talk in depth about this collection. There is a lot about this album, but it's something very deeply personal to me. I own one of the few vinyl copies, because of course I do, of the record, and as you can see, it's told in 3 different parts. The first part is a moment in time. The second part, I am ruining this, my sweaty hands, is The Choices We Face, and the third part is A Promise Is Made. The track listing is here, but there are more tracks on here. Two hidden tracks that aren't actually on the streaming services or anything else proper. It also comes with a super neat holographic little piece of art like this. Here we go. Where you can see all different sorts of effects. Really neat stuff, and yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the music. A Matter Perspective, again, is made up of 3 EPs. The first of which is A Moment in Time. The artwork for this is incredible. Again, it's made from a duo of graphic designers, so there's so much going on here. I'm heavily referencing a museum kind of experience that the band released with this anthology collection just a couple of weeks later. And also Heinhammer's website, he did an incredible write-up of everything there, and I feel like I'm just copying and pasting verbatim at some points, which I am, but like I cannot do this justice. This EP is just like, I've listened to this music time and time again, so I'm gonna try and breeze through as fast as I can, but my camera shuts off at like 20 minutes of recording, and then it'll start overheating at like 30, so we'll see how far I can get before I need to start talking about something else or just start speeding things up. So A Moment in Time uses 1-point perspective album art, so you can see like here and here and here, everything is just like, you know, facing it straight on, very Wes Anderson-esque, if you kind of know that feeling. Moment in Time explores the idea of how life is a collection of memorable singular moments, how a string of these memories can create a story, and how we refer to these moments and what emotional connotations we attach to these moments determine how they fall in a string of moments we call our memories. These in turn serve as the foundation of how we explain ourselves to people around us and how we construct our personal reality. My gosh, it's a lot. I even end up writing like a small book report about this. Let's go. The first song, Back When, 1997, stars a 4-year-old boy who will be going to school for the first time next year. It's kind of like talking about, all of these songs are like deeply personal to one of the 2 members of the band. So this EP itself, it's exploring those through the vision of like, you know, a segment in time. So you're a child, you're looking at fireworks, you're celebrating the new year, 1997. You know, DROELOE says that it sparks a childlike energy and curiosity within us. It reminds us of a time when everything was new and pure, and every little thing or experience was get us really excited. So the thing about this collection of songs, a lot of them are instrumentals. Some have just, you know, only a couple of words, and even so, it's just hard to express that through like, hey, these synths are really good or something like that. It's just so hard to mention that, but like, the emotions that they convey, they're incredibly well done. They're expertly crafted, and to me, I feel like I wrote more of an analysis rather than a review. So it's kind of difficult, but we're rolling with it. Next up would be Sunburn, the band's most popular song, and again, well, obviously the most popular song on this EP. It shows that our young boy has become a young man who has gone off to summer camp for a couple of weeks. He experienced his new kiss, his first kiss, met a lot of friends, and, well, he's at the train station rushing to catch his train. Unfortunately, he forgot to say quickly says his goodbyes, but the one person he wishes was there isn't. So he just gets on the train and starts beating himself up, but after taking a seat on the train, he thinks to himself that maybe it's better that these memories stay preserved as they are. Next up, Lily Pads. The song is about a memory triggered by something really insignificant from a smell or a message on an answering machine, but can bring you to a place in your head where you haven't been in a long while. The ballad of times past, but also a celebration of rediscovering the memory. It's pretty good. Homebound is just, you're staring at the clock, waiting for work to end. You just want to be home. So the song is about being okay with the feeling of experiencing, sadness, kind of anger, just like waiting for something to end, just knowing that it's only just a moment. The final track on this EP, Just Now 2017, it's kind of just like how fast life has been moving for these guys, how much has changed recently with their success of the project DROELOE. They use the example of the person jumping off, like going skydiving, and just trying to assess like how things have gone for the past however long, right? Incredible stuff. Okay, so that's the end of the first EP. I tried to talk as fast as I can. I'm going to cut here, and then we'll meet up with the choices we faced in just a second. Okay, the choices we face. It came out August 10th, 2018, and it is the second part of this three-part trilogy. Three parts trilogy, that makes sense. I love the way that this was conveyed in the video, so I'm just going to pretty much quote this verbatim. As humans, we have an interesting relationship with the concept of choice. On one hand, we idolize the aspect of free will and refer to it as the defining part of being human. On the other hand, it seems as if choices frighten us because it implies change. It also seems like choosing something doesn't always correspond with the desired outcome. With our ever-evolving society, we have to go through many hoops and get permission from many people to bring such choices to fruition, thus leaving many things up to chance, which is counterintuitive when it comes to choice. However, one thing is certain, that we will encounter a lot of crossroads on our path. These crossroads are often disguised as a single path until you reach a T-junction. One of the great things that Hammers did during the art for all of this is that while the art for A Moment in Time reflects, just a string of stories going in one direction and using a one-point perspective, the artwork for this uses a two-point perspective and shifts it to, make a, like branching paths choices. You may have noticed that this art has been hanging on my wall pretty much since I started doing this. I got this back when this EP released, this piece of art, and it's been hanging there since. This EP means so much to me, and I'm glad to have a piece of it just hanging on my wall to celebrate how incredible the band is. I should probably clean this off. I'm not too sure how dusty it is. Not very, actually. Looks like it's faded over the years, but I'm glad to have some art of it in my room. It's one of my favorite EPs, and let's talk about it briefly, right? So, the choices we face. You can see the two-point perspective, and here is some of the art. Here is more of the art. There's 7 different tracks on this EP. Well, I think this one is actually called an album proper, but regardless. The first song, The First Wish, is a haunting lullaby-esque tune that relays, the feeling of being a child, where your first wish, the first choice that you made, was deciding what you wanted to be when you grow up. It's about that younger person that still's keeping that dream alive, who taught you how to dream, and it kind of just uses that childlike whimsy for everything. One thing you'll notice in the album art, hopefully you can see it, but there's like a little train there. That's in the first album art as well, in Back 1, 1997. And that train reappears later as well, so I'll show you that when it happens. The second track on here, Weird Machine, is by far my favorite track that the band has ever produced. The vocalist Nev on there is one of my favorite vocalists ever, and their vocals are just so intoxicating that I love everything they produce. It's just really, that song is about being authentic to yourself, and it's just being true to you. It's about pursuing your strengths and just leaving your old self behind and pursuing a new one. It's an incredible song, one of my favorites. Go listen to it if you haven't heard it. It's just really good. Next up, Taking Flight. They use they say that it's like in the museum tour, it's impulsively taking a trip to Japan with your friends, something that you've always wanted to do. It's literally about taking flight and just making an impulse decision, being like, hey, let's roll with this. Just even though you might feel a little bit anxious about the decision, go with the punches, run with it, enjoy it, have fun, do something that you've been questioning about years on end. Just go, run with it. Next up is Limbo. It's a pretty haunting track, one of the most haunting in the band's discography, as well as the follow-up track, Step by Step. Limbo, however, is just taking a step back from whatever situation you're in. If you're angry, if you're feeling some kind of violent, enraging emotion, step back, reassess, see how things are going, and then process what your next move is. Make your choice a good one. Next up, Step by Step. Again, another haunting track. It's about if you made the wrong choice, you can always step back, roll back, move back, go down another path. And the follow-up to that is Turn Around. Again, gone down the wrong path, turn around, go back, fix what you've done, and start heading down a new path that you want to forge for yourself. No matter how far gone you think you are, you can always turn back and head down a different path. And then closing out this EP would be Looking Back. It's a very fun one because the artwork shows previous artworks from the last EP, A Moment in Time, and it's about how even though photographs capture good moments, they only make up half the story. The bad moments that aren't really captured remain with you and make you who you are. It anchors you within your reality, and the way you tell it to yourself determines the momentum and direction of where your story will take you. So don't forget where you came from. It will be easier to see where you're going. Again, incredible EP. It's just really good. That's it for the choices we face. Next step would be A Promise Is Made, but I'm gonna cut here, give the camera a chance to cool down a bit, and then we'll catch up in just a second. Okay, a couple minutes later and an ice pack later, we cooled down the camera just a tiny bit. So let's talk about the third EP, which would be A Promise Is Made. This album, this EP uses a bunch of different artwork that relays more of a maze-like path for everything. To quote Hein Hammers, it says, visually the artworks present this idea by creating these perspective-bending maze-like structures out of seemingly mundane situations and grand-looking scenarios. It is... here we go. It plays off the idea of the portrait by both A Moment in Time and The Choices We Face, and continues the thread of introducing the idea that to reach a goal or to make and fulfill a promise is of your will, and one needs to navigate multiple situations, wild with choices, temptations, and obstacles, almost like a maze. In order to reach the end goal or to fulfill this promise made with yourself or others, every scenario or scenario has to be treated with purpose and deliberation, whether this is through intuition and instincts or morals and beliefs. So, this this EP is consisting of 10 tracks, so it's the longest EP on this record. First track, Oath, is kind of, what is, brings up the question is like, what is belief and what is knowing? What's the difference between the two, and how can we use beliefs to amplify our progress? How can we make a promise to ourselves that we believe in, that we know, and use that to push ourselves forward? Second track, Virtual Friends, the most popular track on this EP and one of my favorites on this EP, is about how differences between online and in-person communication can lead to a feeling of disconnect. That's pretty much the best explanation for this straight from the band's mouth. So I love the explanation in the museum video where it's so good. It has nothing to do with any of that, but it's about getting sucked into your phone, but it's just like, oh my god, the story that is told is incredible. Next up, Casual Trouble, is about the mundane issues in life, how every small thing just starts piquing your anxiety, and how every little thing will set you off, and how maybe sometimes it's best to take a step back, adjust, reassess, and then make the next move. Following that would be Broken Bricks. It's a song where the lyrics are London bridges falling down, and it's conveying the emotion and feeling of being kind of like how people get trapped in their own little groups, their own little niches of the internet, their own little cliques. How like a small group of people will just like cement their beliefs in one thing and not budge. They use the example of flat earthers and how people will think the earth is flat, and like you surround yourself with people who just keep agreeing with you despite there being overwhelming evidence about this thing. I'm not going to go into that, but another thing would be like Tower of Babel and how that disconnect arises. One of my favorite tracks, just by meaning behind it, would be Komorebi, which is a borrowed word from Japanese where its literal meaning means sunlight flittering through the trees. And it's more about the experience of the hustle and bustle of city life's got you down. Head to the forest for a day, experience what nature has to offer. Look at the sunlight flittering through the trees. Take in those breaths of just walking through the forest floor and just seeing just what nature has to offer. Take a step back and just, again, see what nature can offer you. Next up, Written Maze is a track about how social media is just in your face. Everything, information, everything is just in your face, and how news and life can just get you down because nothing really feels real anymore. Just you're constantly being bombarded with information that it just feels overwhelming at times. Reality starts to feel like it's crumbling around you, but how can you manipulate reality to your advantage? Next up would be Petrified. It's a song about being paralyzed by your anxiety, by experiencing imposter syndrome. How, while you're the museum video uses the analogy of you're going into an interview, the building is way above, you feel over you don't belong in such a building with super high ceilings, marble floors. You're applying for a job and everyone has a better suit, is better dressed than you. You take a moment, go to the bathroom, look in the mirror, be like, this person in the mirror looks better than I ever do. And then you take that persona of that confident person in the mirror and you roll with it. You pretend to be that person. You're taking on that imposter syndrome. Taking one step at a time and pushing through. Next up is a rap track, World Full of Snakes, that it features an artist named Pure V or Pure 5, who I believe is an alias for Regers. It's a really like pretty good rap song that like almost feel like Eminem wrote it, like or at least Eminem's featured on it. It's wild how the range that he has, and how like from something you wouldn't expect on an electronic album. It's a song about like causing mayhem, causing chaos. What if your ethics went out the window? What if you know all the rules of society and threw those out? What could you do for yourself? How could you benefit? How could you change all this stuff? And how would things turn out? Obviously, that's not something that has been done by either of the duo, but what if, right? The penultimate track on this record, or on this EP rather, is one of the shortest songs. I believe the shortest on the EP and like third shortest altogether. Grind and Hustle. It's like 8 different words. The grind and hustle, the thing on my mind. I think that might be it. So good. One of my favorites. It's just catchy. It's about like, to quote the band, if you dream about doing anything or making anything, the only way to make that a reality is to dedicate your full attention and effort into the path towards it. That path can be long, and it can be a long one, but it can be a fun one too. This track is about celebrating the fact that giving your all and staying at it will ultimately bear fruit in the quest of bringing your dreams to life. Good stuff. And closing out this EP would be Push Through. Again, it's the same thing. It's about overwhelming challenges and when they can be, overcoming those challenges. How something, insignificantly small to, some people can be overwhelming to another. Sometimes getting out of bed is a challenge in the morning. Sometimes it could be, running a couple miles a day. It could be, like you're tackled with a huge project that you need to deal with at work. For me, this album was something that I need to push through to take and deal with head on and write about this. It took a bit of time, but we got there. Okay, that's it for all the EPs, but like I said, there's a couple more tracks on this record. 9 to be exact. So let's catch up in just a second, and we'll talk more about that just a bit. Okay, so it's time for the fourth and final part of this trilogy. The fourth part would be the songs that came after the release of A Promise Is Made. There are 7 tracks on the anthology proper, 3 of which are original, and 4 of which are original to the record, and 3 are reimagined tracks, which can be considered remakes. There are 2 hidden tracks on the vinyl collection, and we'll talk about those after. Half of them, so the half of them were released along with this collection. The other half were released, prior to, between the announcement of the band, of the duo separating, as well as the release of this collection. And between A Promise Is Made and the announcement. So let's talk about this. The first track, Panorama, is the star of the show in the museum video. It is a nostalgic track. It's a comforting track. It's one that elicits those feelings along with this motivation. It's the heart and soul of this collection. It's the one that represents it in the best form. Next up would be Sunburn Reimagined. We talked briefly about Sunburn, but many of the reimagined tracks pay homage to the originals while reinventing themselves. This one, while the originals kind of feel more nostalgic, the other ones feel more intense and bring about different feelings, but they do. It feels like looking back at them with rose-colored glasses and being like, "Oh, this is what I kind of remember it being." The next track, "Open Blinds," is the true ending to the choices we face. It belongs right there at the end, and it also has that 2-point perspective kind of thing going for it. It's about the pressure that life naturally has, and how a fear of not being productive enough or a feeling of not spending your time right will all but be solved by basking in those emotions. It serves as an affirmation to spend my time with with what feels right, without worrying too much about what could have been. Yeah, it's just about keeping on, keeping on. Looking Back reimagined, again, another reimagined track. It's a compliment to the original. Not much else to be said. The artwork is great. All the artwork is great. Roadside Flowers is the true ending to Promises Made. It is taking a moment to just appreciate the world around you. It's to remember to not be too hard on yourself and appreciate working on your shortcomings without contempt. Reminder to step backwards, recalibrate, and then just take the step forward. Virtual Friends Reimagined. Again, it's a reimagining. It's probably the best reimagined track to me personally. I love the colors on this one. It's beautiful. Celebration of the band's history for the reimagined tracks, but it kind of loses the meaning and the feeling of the originals. Again, they're remixes. It's fine. It's a nice addition. But closing things off would be the song Treasure Map. It is the true ending to A Moment in Time, because A Moment in Time ends with Back When 2017. This, or not Back When, it's Just Now 2017. This Treasure Map song belongs right there in 2020 as this anthology collection is coming out. It is the true ending to the anthology collection, and it's the last track of... I hate how it's out of order on like Spotify. I wish I could just reorder everything, but like it's the true ending to this collection of songs, and it's wonderfully done. Hold on, okay. Let me scroll back down. Here we are. So it is the end of all things. I said it's making everything come full circle. Everything started with Back When 1997, and now it's ending with Treasure Map, quote unquote 2020. It's about the journey. It's about how this song just encompasses everything, and it's a lot. To end things off, I will read this quote out about this collection. This album is about our personal experiences and our different and shifting perceptions of life. All the work on the album, musically and visually, was made in a very turbulent time in our lives. We needed to grow a lot as people and broaden our horizons in order to maintain the trajectory of the project and to stay sane in general. We're super proud that we managed to make something that inspires ourselves in different ways, and it would be incredible if that would also be the case for others. But apart from that, this release also marks the conclusion of the first book of the DROELOE project. Onto the first chapter of the next book. That first chapter is somewhere in my record collection. It would be this one, actually. I believe it's right here. The Art of Change by DROELOE. It's the most recent album by Vincent Ruigers. It just came out a couple months ago, I believe September, and it's really good. It's really fun. It's wonderful. Go listen to that too. But this is the next chapter. Well, it's the next book. It's the first chapter of that book. Good stuff. Lastly, there are 2 bonus tracks on the vinyl collection, which I have right next to me. They would be the Many Worlds song Reimagined, one of the band's most popular singles. Again, one of my favorites. It's just another hidden track on the record. Again, reimagined, but super fun. I'm glad it has a place on this record. And finally would be Three Seasons, which is a very like trumpety, nostalgic, kind of like old cartoony song. I don't have any other, like, there's no mention of this at all online other than just like one YouTube video that thanks DROELOE for like, you know, releasing the song and like getting permission from this thing, and I can't find anything else other than like, you know, some forum post or whatever mentioning like, hey, this is a hidden track on this album. There's nothing. This, according to at least the YouTube video's description, it's about how unapologetic the passing of time can be, and that's fine and also beautiful in a way. It feels like that, sure, but like it's hard to derive a meaning from a hidden track on an album that has barely any official recognition by the band in any capacity. But that's it for this album. It's been an incredible journey. This is one of my favorite anthology. Well, it's like one of my favorite collections of all time. I'm glad to have such a piece of this with me. I'm glad I have it hanging on my wall. I'm glad that I have the collection here. This is beautiful, beautiful artwork. If I could just here, let's move this right there. Thank you, Art of Change. Don't slide down. Just having this right here. Oh my gosh, it's wonderfully done. As well as, you know, some incredible art from the actual records themselves. Beautiful stuff. Here you can see like the 1-point perspective, the 2-point perspective, and like the maze-like kind of thing. It's so good. There's so much I could say about this record that there's just so much, but like, even so, I did not talk about sonically how all of these sound. It's hard to relay that feeling. It's with all of that, you know, some of these are just mostly instrumentals. It's a feeling, and that feeling just has stuck with me for a very long time. I've been with this band since some of the first works, some of their stuff that came out in like 2015, 2016 time. I've been listening to them for as long as they've been around. I have all, like, pretty much all of their music that was ever released in some kind of official capacity. Like, it's just wonderful, and I'm glad to have had this band a part of my life in some way. I'm glad that I've reviewed so much music over the past year, and while things will be slowing down in 2024 with that whole music review stuff, I'm glad it's something that I really pushed myself to do in 2023. Next album would have been the one that's sitting right here on this, like on the edge of this collection, but I think right now is a good place to cut this off. I accomplished my goal, and while I'll still be doing that in the next year, this is a very good stopping point, and I think that's where we're going to call it for today. Thank you all for watching. I hope to see you tomorrow, and until then, later.